Look at this graph.
Okay, I guess we'll look at it. Now I know why people don't like that guy. It gives me, nor my wallet, any great pleasure to discuss the state of affairs on Bitcoin right now. Why? The mid-8,000s have been lost. Now there was a couple reasons why people were hopeful that despite a fall to this level being a likely possibility, this would have been a strong level of support. Let's look at why. First of all, if you were to use the Fibonacci tool from the bottom of the bear market to right at the peak of the rally, guess where a 50% retracement would smack dab put you in the middle of? That's right, the 8,000s. You could have reasonably predicted that a 50% retracement from the peak of the rally might have been, how do you call it, a decent enough of a pullback to carry on with the gains, especially in a bull market. We have traded through it. Next indicator, the 200-day moving average. This covers the previous 40 weeks of trading. And is a very key indicator for many market analysts. It helps determine the overall trend of a market. So important, in fact, that an oversimplification of it would be in a bull market, you'd be trading above, and in a bear, trading below. Just so happened to be that where it's at is the mid-8,000s. It was barely support. In fact, we've traded through it. Of all the possible bear market indicators, this is the one I like the least because it has the most credence to it. Ideally, it is retested soon, and it better not flip into resistance. Just saying. Anyway, last but not least, conspiracy theory time. The cash settled Bitcoin futures market over at the CME. Gaps in the price of Bitcoin occur here when the CME closes and then reopens for business, but during the interim, Bitcoin's price moved somewhat significantly. Here are just a couple of examples of one of these gaps opening and then later on closing. And this has been the case almost since the inception of the CME futures trading. There was, of course, a conspicuous gap that had yet to be filled for a period of almost 3 months, which has now been filled. Yes, in the mid-8,000s. Now, I don't know about this. It's kind of illogical, but it has been the case for a very long time now. So my thoughts on the matter probably resonate with Michael Scott's.
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
So the current market price is more than a little disappointing, even for potential buyers right now. We have been dumping hard with no real bounces as of yet. And I'm just looking at the daily charts here, but believe me, the weekly, the monthly don't look that great either. But on the upside, a potential silver lining to this absolute cloud storm we've been having. We are most definitely entering oversold territory already on Bitcoin. In what has been the worst week for Bitcoin since 2018, the relative strength index is so low, you would have to go down to the drop from 6K to 3K to find a lower point on it. Looking at the Bollinger Bands for Bitcoin, looks absolutely ridiculous. It has been trading so far south of the bottom band as to create a massive gap. They've really overdone it here. There are other indicators, of course, that could be used. The MACD, for example, pretty much many indicators you could be looking at are showing oversold conditions right now for Bitcoin. So, while further losses are definitely still possible, in fact, many people expect it at this point, it gets less and less likely in the face of these indicators. But let's take a different perspective right now, a more macro perspective on what's going on. A slightly old log chart of Bitcoin. 5 phases of each 4-year cycle or halving cycle for Bitcoin are demonstrated. A bull, a bear, accumulation, expansion, reaccumulation period. Rinse and repeat. Now, it does seem somewhat arbitrary to just say that we are going to go somewhat sideways now right up until halving, but considering how this chart was first produced when Bitcoin was at 8K, does give some credence to it. This chart predicts the ultimate support is going to be 6K. Now, I could definitely see this playing out, but I could also see the bull market resuming faster than waiting for the halving. But long term, I just don't see much to be worried about.
Quickly, before we go, Bitcoin was under 8,000 earlier today.
Buy it.
Regardless, though, of
every
the
day.
drop. If I said to you Bitcoin dropped to 5,000, you'd say buy it.
Buy it. Because here's the thing, the daily price of
She really didn't know what to say. This idiot.
Bitcoin doesn't matter. It's been alive for 10 years. In every year, other than one, 2015, it's made a higher low. The market cap has grown every single year. Every fundamental indicator of Bitcoin, usage, wallets, block size, transaction size, number of transactions, every single one, hash rate, making new highs. All of the indicators of the network and the network value are rising. The price of any asset fluctuates.
I think the point he's trying to make here is that time favors the brave. Of course you can get wrecked on short time frames with Bitcoin. Of course you can. But when you're looking at quarterly, yearly, multi-yearly on Bitcoin, it almost doesn't matter what the price is. Not for hodlers at least. Try to remove your emotion from the moment, as emotion trading is always a bad idea. Anyway, today's video has a sponsor. Now, this helps me keep copyrighted music in my videos. It helps me continue to do what I love as a full-time job, so I'm very grateful to them. I'm going to hand over the time now to Nicholas, our dedicated reviewer. That's been it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Hey, the following is a paid review by Internet of People and their upcoming IEO called Hydra. Their focus is a crypto solution for people's identity, privacy, and secure data transfer of all this information. And in the following few minutes, I will tell you all the facts about how they work as a project, as well as things I like, things I don't like about them, about the IEO, and all this in my overall conclusion. First of all, these guys are an older altcoin, around since 2016, and never had an ICO. So far, their focus has been on technology and this infrastructure behind DIDs, Decentralized Identities. With this, you can compartmentalize your life and pretty much have ownership of multiple sub-identities you can share with certain groups. So in this example, we can have like a developer identity for your work, as you see right here. Maybe you can have a separate set of information you set and share with your friends in your social life, and then another separate identity you use for your crazy hobbies, however you want to structure your actual life. So far, they have this practical partnership with a university in Mexico, and they plan to have these 30,000 students served with this credential system. On the positive side, we can see that they have access to some of the easiest scaling I've seen so far in crypto, because they have a really easy target of universities as well as any large or small organization that has real world members that need identified. Keep in mind that this is not what the DIDs and claims are limited to. There's a lot more everyday uses and not just this. Once their actual IOP stack is complete, it will be quite a big stepping stone for the privacy of the internet, because this will pretty much take care of all the gatekeepers and these, big corporations. They also make the risk of getting hacked quite minimal, since these old information silos are pretty much obsolete, and all this will be stored in a decentralized manner. On the negative side, we can see a really small flaw in the theory, because people's psychology and the way people function, IOP wants to eliminate these centralized providers and gatekeepers, and wants people to choose their own verifiers they trust. The issue is people have a bad tendency to want a centralized authority who will check their claims and actually verify the person's real name, their job, their age, title, and so on. So educating these masses about how decentralization properly works will be, a little bit of a difficult step. Also, their IEO is a bit long in my personal opinion, since it's gonna be around 6 weeks, and from my experience, most action happens at the beginning and at the end of the IEO, so I'm not sure why they dragged out this middle part. This IEO also could be a great preparation for scaling, but also it could be seen as a little bit of a desperate move, since the team is quite transparent about the fact that they're out of funds. IOP is also taking quite a big bite, possibly a bite that's too big, out of the entire internet. They're trying to handle all identity, and we see even Microsoft trying to do the same. It's also possible to have, really big upside with this project, and it could be comparable to the giants like Civic or Selfkey, but also it could be seen as some sort of competition with these projects. Another thing that's a little bit negative is the fact they had quite a few old community members upset in the Telegram when I was looking at the older messages, since IOP holders of the current token get a 1-to-1 swap with the Hydra. So the old IOP, there was a 14 million supply, and the new Hydra gets a 335 million supply, and you can see how the inflation is quite big and why some people were a little bit disappointed. It's also good to keep in mind that there's going to be an additional 21 million per year fixed inflation, because this is a DPoS system. Personally, DPoS is one of my favorite blockchains, and is quite fast. It works on a system of delegates, and here there's 53 that are publicly elected, and they get to share this inflation amongst themselves for keeping the network up. What's cool about this system is the fact that actual delegates can then pass on some of their earnings down to the people who vote for them, or even give them majority of this inflation. All you have to do is pretty much vote for certain delegates, which give you a higher return. Also, people interested in purchasing large amounts, this IO could be a really rare opportunity to get a fixed price for a huge order. But if you're actually interested in smaller purchases, the older IOP still has a bit of volume, and this could be a better place to purchase some, since it's trading at half of the IEO price at the moment. So overall, I do want to say that this is better than most crypto projects I research, and I am quite surprised in a positive way, but I think they still need to prove some things themselves, that they aren't only good on paper. If you're interested in the IEO, I do recommend keeping an eye on the actual IOP price, since it's going to be a great indicator how the IEO is doing so far. Thank you so much for watching. You're awesome.